Programming language stack. Everyone always asks, what is the best coding stack for web apps or mobile apps or whatever programming project you're going to do? There isn't really a number one stack. Every stack comes with its advantages and disadvantages. In this video, I'll go over the top 7 stacks I've used and will tell you at the end what is, in my opinion, the best stack to learn in the current job market. My name is Phil. I became a senior developer at the age of 30. If this video becomes of value to you, please like and share and comment on what stack you're currently using. I read all the comments and would love to give you my input. The first stack we're going to talk about is, a legacy one, a legendary one, let's say. It's a LAMP, Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. It's what I first learned because I remember learning PHP. And LAMP is really good because anyways, when you're running like a cloud server, you're running like Linux anyways, right? Ubuntu or Debian or whatever it is. And from there, you're running a Linux command. And then to serve the files, you're using Apache. And then PHP and MySQL work very well together. And a lot of the web is built on that. And I think the LAMP stack really comes from when developers used to work alone. They were like the lone wolf, and they didn't really need to worry about the deployment and all this kind of stuff. You just upload the files with FTP transfer and it works. So I think Apache is really cool to like get HTML or serving like PHP, and it makes everything very simple. You can work alone, but like for me anyways, when I was using PHP, it was kind of hard to work on teams because you'd have like a bunch of HTML and then or PHP, and then you have HTML code in there. And then you can inject the PHP anywhere you want, and it just it's like the code is very it's like front end and back end the same, and then it was really cool to see, and then you put like the session token on top to give everyone like login access, and it was cool and it was easy to deploy. It was fun to program in. Obviously, it had its like drawbacks too, like PHP. Sometimes when you write a lot of it starts looking like spaghetti code. But, it is a classic. A lot of it is open source. But MySQL is still open source? I don't know. So, efficiently handles, dynamic web pages. Allows you to choose components based on your specific business requirements. For instance, instead of Linux, you can choose Windows OS. That'll be WAMP. But you probably use Linux because it's way cheaper. And Python and PHP is it's a good language. I think people like to talk bad about it, but I have used LAMP on like my first project. I think it was like a tattoo reservation thing. I wrote all the front end and back end in PHP, all the APIs, and then just transferred it over with FTP like FileZilla, and then it just gets uploaded, and it works pretty well. So that was like something I've made with LAMP. And like another stack, I think now that we're getting a little bit more modern, and after the building a website and building these technologies isn't like a lone sport anymore. Things like React came out where you can actually, I'm going to work on this component, you work on this component, let's put it all together in the end. Not saying that you cannot do that without LAMP, but like MERN, it stands for like Mongo, Express, React, and Node.js. There's also Mean where the R is replaced with A, but anyways, I've never used Angular. Maybe I have, like the ng create, I don't know. And then MERN. So when you replace Angular in the Mean stack, it becomes React. React is like super popular. There's a huge community. It's really good for web development. And then if you want to go into mobile development, which we'll talk about later, you can do React Native and similar syntax. Anyways, you can build a very, robust front ends like that hold a lot of data. Don't need to make a lot of requests. Or like it front loads a lot of the requests in the beginning. Then you can save all the data in state or like state managers, and then handle and manage from there. It uses JSX, which is very familiar to HTML. It is HTML almost, and it uses a virtual DOM, so that allows the changes to be implemented easily. Since React is a library and it's not a framework, you may have to rely on third-party services to build desired functionalities. But React community is like the biggest in the world. Honestly, like before you start building like a carousel or like, I don't know, whatever it is, you can also like look it up on NPM if there's anything for there. Not just React, but Node.js community is huge. But probably someone else has run into that problem, made it like a dragging library or anything like that, video sharing library, and you can find them and then learn how to use them. But if you're not holding that much data and you're not having to handle like a lot of data in your views or something, it might not make a lot of sense because it is a lot of steps to get the server running, and you have to build it and build a minified version and run it and deploy it. When you can just, if it's a simple landing page or something, HTML, CSS, JavaScript would just be fine. But React is kind of good if things get a little bit more complicated. The client needs to like handle a little bit more data or a lot more data. It needs to handle a lot more requests. It needs to have like routing and all this kind of stuff, maybe you would want to use React and MERN. But and it's probably a good choice because it's very popular, and Mongo is very easy to use with Express, and it's pretty good. And I'm using MERN a lot recently too. Not with Express per se. I'm using a different framework like Nest.js or Molecular, but I respect MERN a lot, and I think a lot of the newer developers or a lot of the developers now have implemented it, and it's easy to find other developers that are using it, and it's cool. So I have built something similar within MERN, like Mongo and React with Vite. And then I use Mongo with, I think I was just running Mongo instead of Docker. Don't do that if it's going to be like a real production thing. Use it on Atlas. But yeah, I was making backend with Node.js and then my front end with React. Yeah, and then I was connecting it to Mongo. And yeah, it's really fun and it's easy to use. And it's definitely something that's very powerful. So for web projects, I think MERN is very good, especially like big full-scale ones. And anyways, so the next one I would say is Python and Django stack. So Django's high-level Python web framework that encourages rapid web development. So it's everything is built into Django. Once you install Django, I feel like all the batteries are included. You don't need to reach out for any kind of other things like routing. You don't need another library for routing. You don't need another library for Django, like for, making HTTP requests. Like Django has everything built in and like extensions like Django REST framework, or I don't know, like the Django admin panel is super powerful. I have definitely used Python and Django before, even with Vue.js, and leveraging Django Python stack for application development allows you to use modern technologies, and developers can combine the stack with Apache. You can combine it with many things, right? Like I think when I was using Django, we were using with PostgreSQL and Psycop-G2 for the connector with Django, and we're using Django REST framework and then the admin panel. So one project that I was doing recently with the Python Django stack was, this is a project I was working on like last year or something, but it was done in Django. We used Django Cookie Cutter. It's to get the initial like template of the project, and then we loaded. There's a company that needed a bunch of data moved from their Access database, super old, to like web. So we moved it all, and you know, there was a bunch of like tables we used, like this has like behavior message, Argos location. It was for migrating sea turtles data. So I don't know, Python's very good for working with like big sets of data, or like if you need to use some like AI tools or something recently, I think you can use those a lot with Python. Python like drops in and works really well. You have a lot of tools in Python like Jupyter Notebook and stuff to test your code or like run your code in like a safe environment, and it's really good to kind of use when you're working on a data-driven project. And then I think good thing with Django is everything is included, so you don't really need to make the admin panel yourself, and there are a lot of like wrappers for the admin panel. You can get templates, and it's really easy to work with, and in the end it just like puts the database tables, Postgres tables, into your admin panel, and you can search for them. You can do a bunch of stuff, and it cuts down on a lot of development time, and you know, and I really respect Python Django. And one thing of Django is the documentation they have on their website. The tutorial is really good. You can learn almost everything you need to in that tutorial inside of the Django tutorial, the djangoproject.com. I think it's pretty good. It tells you exactly what you need to do, like for the, you know, templates, URLs and views, the URL patterns, all this kind of stuff, the admin panel, authentication, and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty good. I would recommend it if you need to just like work on some data-driven stuff, like, and show the data. I think Python is good for that with Django, and you don't need to write the admin panel. That's one thing that's very good. And I heard like there's other projects like that with like Elixir and Phoenix, which I want to get into. Elixir, Phoenix, admin panel. Yeah, you get some kind of admin panel with Elixir. I think that'll probably be my next thing that I'll probably do recently. Anyways, so going off topic, but Python and Django for like data heavy projects where you have to show a lot of things like the back office, meaning like not like, you know, the front facing to clients, but like admin panel stuff. I think it's very good. And you'd be surprised at how many projects there are like that, right? Like every single front-end project is going to have some kind of admin panel, and I think Python and Django will be very good for that. So for the next two things are mobile development. So Flutter, right, is written in Dart. So Dart is a language from Google that they released, right? And then Flutter is like a framework for Dart. Anyways, so Flutter is powered by Dart, a programming language optimized for fast apps on any platform. So they're very performant apps. And the coding is they built out a lot of widgets, and it's really cool to use. I've built two projects in Flutter, like a crypto wallet and a coin exchange, and it was very fun. Like it's not like I built them myself, but I worked on the team to build them. Here's some. Let me see here. House mobile. Whoops. Mobile. So this is kind of what like Flutter code looks like. We built some like screens, and you do like this. You built like these widgets, and you can put like the app bar. That's where the app bar is, and the body, and then it's like you call these UI components, and then they have properties, and then you put the properties inside, and then those properties inside have widgets, and those widgets have another properties, and then you put them inside. It almost felt like a huge CSS kind of thing to me. Not like CSS as in styling, but like the language, the way it looked is like you could put like these objects, and then inside of those objects you can put other properties. And anyways, it was really fun to use. Yeah, it was a good time. But Flutter, I think if you're handling like a lot of like SVGs and images, and you kind of need like native performance and all this kind of stuff, I think, me personally, Flutter is way better than React Native, which I'm going to talk about next, for performance for apps. I don't know if it's way better, but like it is better, my opinion. And the code is very strongly typed, so it's safer. And like the mobile interface, it gives you a lot more warnings. Like if you're like out of zone, it'll give you like a yellow and black like thing, like that's like, oh, this is not allowed, and it kind of gives you better warnings to kind of like go through and not break the rules, I guess. And the code help is really good. So like if you make an error and you like press like command period where your error is, I think it should like fix it. Not like here, but let's go like I don't know, let's go like this. Maybe I don't have Flutter installed. Anyways, like if I mess up, I think this is old code base, so I don't really have the completion for it for some reason. But anyways, so Flutter's pretty good for making a mobile app and making perform mobile apps. And that's gonna bring me on to the next one, right? Which is React Native. The React Native stack here. Let me see here. React Native is a JavaScript library that can that makes a bridge for building iOS and Android mobile applications, right? And it uses JavaScript as the engine, but then the UI components, it can talk to like the native UI components. I think that's how it works. But there is Expo in the React Native community CLI. I have not used Expo before, but I heard it's getting much better. So React Native applications are written with a mixture of JavaScript and XML markup, and using real mobile UI components, which means the app looks like any other mobile application. Application built using React Native provide high-level reliability and performance, deliver superior user experience. The framework allows developers to reuse 100% of their code between different environments, which saves a lot of development time. So that's a huge one, right? So say I'm writing a web app in Mern, and the syntax is very similar from React, so you can just reuse a lot of the code in your React Native app, and like the knowledge will transfer over. So even if you need to rewrite it, it won't be like too much different. And I feel like React Native, like my opinion, like these phones or whatever, like they're getting like way more and more powerful. So like they're a lot more giving recently for like writing, like I don't know, you're processing like your app or whatever. I'm not saying like write really bad code and not performant, but they're a lot more giving now. Like I remember my computer when I was like really young, it had like, I don't know, 512 megabytes of RAM or something, and I was like really happy because I could play Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction. But now I think phones have like gigs of RAM, and that's really insane to think about. But I'm not saying write bad code and like excessively write like for loops to find stuff, and when you can have higher like performance doing other things. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is React Native, even though it's not as performant as Flutter, let's say, I think React Native, the usability between code, so say I get an outsourcing project, right, or something, and I have a mobile project I need to build an admin panel, I need to build a website, I need to build the server, and then the database tables or something, right? It would be kind of cool if I could share code between my app and like the website and admin panel, right? So that would be I think it helps with the development speed, and the syntax is very similar. So, like I said, there's a lot of community for MERN. So if you need to find people to like work on your app and help you, there's a lot more people in React Native land than Flutter land, my opinion. And React Native does have like the red screen of death when you do make errors. I mean, Flutter has better errors, like to look at it, but React Native is also pretty good. And I like React Native because I got pretty used to it. And the last one we'll talk about is serverless stack, right? Serverless is an architecture that got pretty famous. You got like AWS Lambda, Google Cloud Functions, Azure Functions. I've not used Azure Functions, but so serverless, I think it's pretty good because when you write your own server and you have to use like the load balancers and everything and set it all up, it could, you do need more hands and you need more expertise. But Google Cloud Functions, what I use a lot anyways, or AWS Lambda, you just write the code and then it gets all managed and handled by, a different, server. It won't crash. It'll just be expensive if it's used a lot. So, I mean, for cost, so there's like two things that you really have to think about during like development, right? There's time, which is cost, right? So if it takes a longer time, even if you're paying one developer, you're paying that developer to finish the job. But then you have like scalability and use and cost of use afterwards, right? Because a server is not free, and definitely using serverless it was trendy. It was trending a lot, but it is kind of dying down, I feel, again. But it is very expensive to maintain. But it is good for an MVP product and where you're trying to get more investment until you can build out those actual things by yourself. It is good, and it is good for like, let's say you don't actually have someone that actually ever written like, some infrastructure code or something like that, let's say. And then you want to deploy these simple endpoints that are touching some database like, what is DynamoDB in AWS or Firestore. I think it's very effective there. But it could get very expensive if you have a sudden explosion of your app getting successful. So yeah, I mean, for me, definitely like I've used all of them. I've kind of like put it pretty straightforward. I like MERN and React Native the most, and serverless does have its place when you want to like kind of build things fast. But yeah, and that's my thing. And like now that we've gone through like all the stacks, I think we've gone through like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stacks that you can use to build a fast team. I would say go with React because the community is so large. And for like data heavy things, and like say you need to pop out like a bunch of CSV files and JSON files and all this kind of stuff, maybe Python is gonna be better for you. And Flutter, it's good. I mean, I'm not like a master at Flutter, but I have done like 2 apps in Flutter. It is pretty good. LampStack, I feel, it's kind of older. Serverless is pretty good for if you don't have time and you don't have the hand to help you. So now, like, we talked about all of them. I talked about what I liked, what I didn't like, and I like a lot of like technologies. I'm always like learning new things. I want to learn like I think Golang and HTMX, or Elixir and Phoenix. These are other stacks that I'm kind of interested in. Maybe I've been a little bit too lazy to learn them, but someone wants to reach out and like teach me or whatever, or study together, I'm always down to. And also like what I've been using recently for my code. So I use like React Native Community, Community CLI. So this is what I'll use, React Native Community CLI. And they're always coming out with new updates. The one problem with React Native, I feel, is it's been out for I don't know how many years. A lot of years, but it's not even at version 1 yet. So that is something that is always scary because it's always changing a lot. But anyways, that's something that I use. And I'll use it with Atomic Design React Native. So I'll use Atomic Design used in React Native to structure my folders for my components into like atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and pages. And maybe I will make a video on this later because there's like 2 ways that you can do your that are like trending recently. So FSD is one, so feature slice design. And I do kind of want to go over some feature slice design kind of stuff where you have a hierarchy of your files. And I use, so right now, like at my old company, I call it like the science kind of stack. Not science, but like React Native with atomic design. So I use like molecules, organisms, and all this kind of stuff. And in the back end, I use molecular.services. So it uses microservices, and it's pretty easy to use. It reminds me of at times when I used to use Vue, because like the syntax is very similar. So I use React Native with the atomic design pattern. I use molecular, and then I'm using Mongo and Docker. So those are kind of things that I'm using recently, and I like build out apps pretty fast with them, and I'm familiar with all the tools that I use. But I do understand I've been using it for a while. I need to kind of branch out and into more diverse things sometimes, but that's basically what I use recently, and that's for mobile apps. And there is no wrong choice, to be honest. It's all very interesting. It's fun to learn new stuff. It's fun to kind of dive deep and find where something would make sense and use. Just like one more thing, like Python and Django is not the fastest like at HTTP requests. It's hard to do sockets, but like say you do need to do more web like protocol stuff, like Node.js is going to be better, and then even better than Node.js at HTTP requests is going to be Golang. So there are drawbacks and positives to every single language, and there's it really depends. Like say for JavaScript, you need to do you wouldn't write a game because it cannot really handle concurrent tasks very like at all, right? Like a game, like you need to track when someone's moving or something like that. But Golang is very good at that. It can handle many threads at one time, or C++. And yeah, there's a place and time for everything, and usually all that stuff will be set for you at the job place when you're there. And you should just trust the process and work on what you think is fun. And just remember, if I can do it, you can do it too. Coding saves lives.